In this video, I've got the latest news, including the gas cylinder that exploded in a rented camper van which injures its occupants, the subscriber who was almost kidnapped in her own motorhome, and there's another attempt at banning vanners from the North Coast 500. Welcome your faces back to Motorhome and Campervan News. I'm Ads, a motorhome owner with a passion for touring. Thank you very much for joining me. If you're interested in getting news about motorhoming, campervanning, or even caravanning, then consider subscribing. And feel free to use the email in the video description to send me news that I may have missed. Motorhome News is brought to you in association with Caravan Radio, radio for the caravan and motorhome community. Listen online at caravanradio.co.uk 24 hours a day or scan this code. Right, on with the news. A couple in their late 70s from Greater Manchester have been fined £6,000 for transporting a stowaway in their trailer. While travelling home from France in their motorhome, the UK Border Force stopped them before they got on the ferry. They discovered a Sudanese man under the tarp of their small trailer, curled up around the camping equipment like a pretzel. The husband said, "You could have knocked me down with a feather when I opened the cover and there was a pair of feet." The couple believe the man must have sneaked onto the motorhome when they went to the supermarket before they checked in at the port. They had to surrender their passports and driving licence and wait for hours until the French police came to take the man away. And then they missed their ferry. Months later, and a letter arrived from the Border Force telling them that they have been fined £6,000. Another couple, this time from Essex, were also fined for transporting a stowaway. This time, however, they managed to drive all the way home. The couple, in their late 50s, had driven for 6 hours through France to arrive home only to discover a 16-year-old Sudanese man under the cover of the bike rack. The husband unzips the really tight cover on the back of their motorhome and he sees 2 trainers, goes to have a look, and there are 2 legs attached to it. His wife recalled. They called the police, who took the stowaway away. Months later, the couple received a letter with a £1,000 fine. I'm not sure why their fine was lower than the other couples. Maybe Border Force needed to hit some targets, or there was a sale on? Who knows? So remember folks, do your own checks for stowaways before reaching the port. Don't rely on the Border Force checks because they will fine you. Check every nook and cranny because you never know who might be hiding behind the door to the toilet cassette using your motorhome for their own European tour. A viewer, let's call her Ange, has written to me via WhatsApp, starting with the words, "Just almost got kidnapped." She told me that she had been driving her motorhome for a few hours and it was time to switch with her husband and fill up with fuel. They pulled off at the motorway in a service station near Girona in Spain. Her husband filled up while she popped into the back to spend a penny, taking the motorhome keys and her bag with her. Moments later, a car pulled up carrying 3 men. One jumped out, opened the driver's door and jumped in behind the steering wheel. Having heard the driver's door close, she checked that the bathroom door was closed and made a small sound, which the man must have heard. Now, probably spooked, the man jumped out of the motorhome and got into the back of the waiting car. The husband had just finished refuelling and moved to the front of the motorhome as the car sped off with the man in the back showing his hands were empty. He was probably indicating that he hadn't taken anything. The garage attendant saw what had happened and confirmed that it was an attempted theft. Although if they were successful, no idea what they would have done to find out that Ange was in the back filling up the toilet cassette. Of course, Ange didn't know any of this was going on. She thought her husband had finished refuelling, albeit very quickly. I'm not sure whether this is a common problem in Spain or anywhere else, but it's a lesson to be vigilant when you're just popping to the shops or filling up with fuel, whether you're in your motorhome, car, at home or on holiday. A motorhome in Brittany, France has mysteriously come off the road, literally. About 7.5 metres long, the Rapido 70 series motorhome was abandoned by the driver with its front end on the ground in the roadside ditch. The rest of it was sticking up in the air at about 45 degrees with the wheels pointing to the heavens. It looks like the motorhome is being held there by overhead power lines, but if you look closely at the photos, the ditch is the perfect size and shape of the front of the motorhome, allowing for the peculiar resting place. The following day, the driver reported the incident to the local police. He seems to have been travelling alone and was not hurt. We may never know how the motorhome got into that position. Maybe the driver was following the local parking rules and tried to fit the motorhome into a small parking bay. Or maybe he just couldn't get that last dribble of dirty water out of the grey tank and thought, I know what I'll do. In France, the Orleans research section of the La Gendarmerie have shut down an organised crime network which specialised in stealing and laundering vehicles, including 151 motorhomes. After stealing a vehicle, the thieves, based in the Loire region, would give it fake number plates and enter it into the government's official vehicle registration system using stolen login details. The Orleans research section discovered the criminal network by making the connection between a stolen vehicle and a motorhome for sale at a dealership. With further investigations, they discovered other motorhomes and dumper trucks stolen from the Paris region. These were disguised and registered into the vehicle registration system by the same person. An official registration certificate was then produced, allowing the vehicle to be sold in France or abroad. Between 2022 and 2023, the criminal network managed to launder 151 stolen and disguised motorhomes for the loss of approximately 8.4 million euros, as well as 289 utility and private vehicles for a loss estimated at 13.3 million euros. And if you want to know what that is in pound sterling, well, it's a lot. The investigation led to the arrest of 6 people and the seizure of 58 disguised motorhomes. 289 vehicles are still to be located. But imagine that. There's a knock on the door and it's the police wanting to seize your beloved motorhome because, unbeknownst to you, it was stolen a few years ago. Or even worse, you're on holiday, tucking into the sausage off the barbecue when the police SWAT team pull up next to your pitch and you don't have enough cutlery. A family of 3 are lucky to be alive after the gas cylinder exploded in the campervan that they were renting. They rented the campervan from Ivy Lane Campers in Scunthorpe. The first time they lit the stove, the cylinder leaked gas, causing the explosion, which burnt their hand, leg and foot. The cooker cupboard door was also blown off its hinges. The victims' injuries meant that their wedding ring had to be cut off by A&E. The trading standards initiated an investigation and found that after the explosion, the owner of Ivy Lane Campers, Carl Smith, employed Nigel Crellin to perform an inspection of the vehicle. However, Crellin falsified the documentation by backdating the inspection, giving a false company name and made up a gas safe ID number. In court, Crellin pleaded guilty of 2 counts of fraud and got 14 months in prison, and Smith pleaded guilty to fraud and failure to discharge a duty under the Health and Safety at Work Act and was sentenced to 16 months. So instead of getting caught hiring out a dodgy, unsafe campervan, they got caught trying to cover their butts. It seems like you can't trust anyone these days. If you're renting a vehicle, you'd expect it to be safe, wouldn't you? The UK City of Culture winner, Bradford, are allowing self-contained motorhomes and campervans with their own toilet to overnight stay at 3 of the council-run car parks, including a beauty spot. These locations are the main car park at the scenic Penistone Hill Country Park, the Cow and Calf Rock in Ilkley, and at Eves Car Park in Belden Moor. Each car park will allow 2 or 3 motorhomes to park overnight with a maximum stay of 2 nights and no return within 5 days. The hope is that this will encourage more visitors to come and explore the area. Also, Moray Council in Scotland have released 9 possible locations to allow motorhomes to park up overnight. They will go through a consultation period first asking locals to suggest alternative locations. So have councils started realising the benefits leisure vehicles can bring to towns and villages? And are they now relaxing their car park rules? In a word, no. Where some councils are motorhome friendly, there are still those that are not. For example, Morecambe Town Council has laid down £20,000 in order to ban leisure vehicles from parking overnight on Morecambe Promenade. They have had numerous complaints about motorhomes staying on the Prom for months on end, causing a nuisance, pollution and ruining the view. The £20,000 is to cover a third of the cost to implement a ban on motorhomes parking on the Prom, with the intention to lay down the gauntlet to Lancashire City and County Councils in the hope that they will provide the rest of the funds to, and I quote, bring this positive change for the people of Morecambe. One town councillor said, other towns in the area have been successful in banning motorhomes and campervans on the promenade. Why should we be any different? Another councillor wanted to ban leisure vehicles from parking in council-run car parks entirely. It sounds like they are very serious. Following a lengthy debate, councillors voted to consider a ban in Morecambe rather than immediately ban them. So they voted to have another meeting. I guess that can only mean good news for the motorhomer, right? There have been more calls to ban campervans and motorhomes from parking overnight at some of the car parks along the North Coast 500 route in Scotland. It costs £10 to stay overnight in some of the council-run car parks. The charge is for one night only and you're not allowed to return within 72 hours. Anyone found breaking these rules will be fined £100 or £50 if paid within 14 days. However, a councillor from Sutherland Council has been bombarded with emails from locals complaining about the rubbish and human waste being dumped by vanners at these car parks and other locations. So Sutherland Council want to ban vanners from parking overnight entirely at car parks located at Durness and Golspie. Enforcing this will cost somewhere between £4,100 and £41,000 depending on whether they pay overtime for existing staff or employ a full-time enforcement officer. There's also a £1,000 cost for installing the signage. However, the Highland Council have stepped in and scrapped the ban on vanners staying overnight at these car parks. A few months ago, the Highland Council introduced the Campervan and Motorhome scheme with the intention of stopping indiscriminate overnight parking by motorhomes and campervans. The voluntary scheme is valid for 7 days and costs £40. It allows motorhomers to park overnight for free in 12 council-run car parks. However, it doesn't appear to have been very popular with motorhome and campervan owners, since around only 500 have been bought, raising just £20,000 in the first 12 months. Their target was £500,000. One councillor wants the scheme shut down, saying that if it isn't scrapped, then it's going to cost the council £2 million. So nothing has changed. There are no bans in place. We can all have a sigh of relief, but what's to say that that won't happen next time? What will push the Highland Council over the edge and ban overnight stays at their car parks? There's a message here, isn't there? And that is, if you abuse it, you're going to lose it. Locals against motorhomers who are taking over or dumping waste isn't just happening in the UK either. Locals in Spain are furious at motorhomers and campervanners for taking over beauty spots along the Mediterranean coast. According to the protesting locals, Alicante on the Costa Brava has had swarms of vanners enjoying the prime coastal spot of Saldar Beach without paying any fees, outstaying their welcome and dumping their waste. The golden sands of Saldar Beach, which is about 50 metres wide and a mile long, is a popular coastal area in Alicante. But despite there being clear signage prohibiting permanent parking, vanners, mainly from the UK, the Netherlands, Germany and Belgium, stay for weeks on end, treating the area like a free campsite. 300 miles away in the coastal town of Fuengirola on the Costa del Sol, there's a similar problem. Locals are saying that vanners are staying longer than the permitted 48 hours and causing waste at public car parks. Fuengirola is a popular tourist destination known for its sandy beaches. There is no designated motorhome park and the local authorities have no plans to build campsites due to the lack of space and the need for incorporating access to electricity and drainage systems. I think the growing popularity of motorhoming has caused beauty spots to become overcrowded, with authorities not being able to keep up with the demand. What doesn't help is the minority of vanners thinking that it's okay or they have the right to dump their waste and break local and national laws. Unfortunately, these people probably don't watch Motorhome News, where they'll be properly informed. I'm afraid that's what we got time for. I'd love to know your thoughts on today's news. Let me know in the doobly-doo. And don't forget to hit the like button, and if you don't want to miss the next exciting episode of Motorhome News, then hit the subscribe button to get future updates. Thanks for watching. Goodbye. That's the chair again.